Good afternoon, everyone. I am Vitumelo Lotlela, and I'll be presenting to you today our paper titled Trust Requirements and Mechanisms in Peer-to-Peer Energy Markets. For this presentation, I will introduce peer-to-peer energy markets as a solution to the energy crisis in South Africa, and I will give a background an overview of peer-to-peer energy markets. And then I'll also discuss the trust challenges in these markets and give a background of trust and discuss the importance of trust for the success of this implementation. And then I will discuss blockchain technology, zero trust architectures, and reputation systems as trust mechanisms to enhance trust in the decentralized peer-to-peer energy markets. And then I'll also introduce the methodology that I used to conduct the review in this paper. And I'll then provide key points from my literature analysis, from which I will then present the gaps and limitations in current work, and I will conclude with a summary of the paper and propose future work. So South Africa's frequent load shedding has undermined the confidence that South African citizens have in Eskom as a reliable power supplier to supply us with sustainable energy. So this has now sparked an interest in renewable energy and peer-to-peer energy markets as solution to reduce the dependence on the unstable grid and mitigate the effects of load shedding. So in the peer-to-peer energy markets, participants trade directly with each other without the influence of a central entity. And participants can be prosumers in black houses like Bob, or they can be prosumers like Alice in the Greenhouse. And a prosumer is a consumer who has the ability to generate their own electricity from renewable energy sources like solar panels. And this is then depicted in the figure by the green prosumer home with the sun on its roof. And prosumers can consume this energy in their homes, or they can trade with consumers in the case where they have surplus electricity to trade and consumers need additional power to power their homes. And this is then shown by the red line and the contract between Alice and Bob. And then prosumers can also trade with each other, and it's shown by the green line and the contract between Alice and prosumer 1. And prosumers can also trade with other, sorry, I've said that. And then they can get additional electricity from the main grid through the intermediary utility in the cases where demand is greater than supply. So this just means that prosumers have not generated enough electricity to power the whole local energy markets. So when Alice and Bob's household participates in the trading process, a bilateral contract is initiated, and this contract then stipulates and binds Alice and Bob to the terms that they've agreed on for the transaction to happen. And each house in the market is equipped with IoT appliances and IoT smart meters, which then monitors the energy consumption and generation and creates energy profiles for each household. And they also then initiate trade on the market. So although this trading process seems simple in theory, it has potential trust challenges, such as what if Alice charges Bob an unfair price or biased price for the electricity? What if Bob doesn't pay for the electricity or Alice fails to deliver the electricity? These trust issues are difficult to resolve without a central authority in this trustless environment, thus highlighting the importance for trust in the peer-to-peer energy market. So in this work, trust is defined from the perspective of digital trust, which tries to replicate the essence of social trust. And in the context of Alice and Bob, trust can be defined as the act where Alice is reliant on Bob to act honestly and reliably by fulfilling his obligations as per the contract agreement. And following this, we will then look at the properties that can help enhance trust or that should be considered for enhancing trust in these environments. And we consider the fact that trust is asymmetric. So the level of trust that Alice has in Bob is not necessarily reciprocated, and it is subjective. So this means that the trust that Alice and Bob have in each other is heavily influenced by their interactions with each other when trading or when trading with other participants in the market. And trust is not transitive. So just because Bob trusts Alice, it does not mean that Alice will trust Bob. Or just because Alice is a doctor in her profession and she's considered to be the best doctor in the world, this will not then make her a trustworthy participant to trade with in the market. And we consider the fact that trust is sensitive, is context sensitive. So it is also shaped by the environment in which it is needed. Considering these properties, it then becomes essential to establish specific trust requirements for the peer-to-peer energy market. And these trust requirements can then ensure the efficient and secure operation of the peer-to-peer energy market. As such, we consider security because then it would allow participants to be confident in the market, as this would then ensure the integrity of data, secure transactions, and platform availability. And we also consider privacy because this then gives participants confidence that their data remains secure in the market. And we also consider transparency, which can then ensure that all participants have access to market information, which builds trust as then it ensures that pricing mechanisms are not biased, and it encourages participants to act honestly in their transactions. Following this, we also then consider fairness, because fairness will guarantee that pricing mechanisms are not biased and that they can then influence participants to fulfill their obligations and increase confidence that the market treats all the participants equally. And then we also consider consensus as a trust requirement, because this then validates transactions, ensuring that financial transactions and the integrity of the data related to them is secure. And because the validation process ensures that only successful transactions are executed, this encourages participants to act honestly and reliably in the market. And we also then consider accountability, because this can then ensure that participants fulfill their obligations in the market, they act honestly and reliably, and maintain fairness during their transactions, thus creating a sense of trustworthiness in the market. Finally, we introduced reputation as a trust requirement, because this would then encourage participants to conduct transactions in a way that is honest and reliable so as to attract other participants to trade with, and this provides participants with overall confidence in the market that participants are trustworthy. With these trust requirements in place, an approach to trust that considers the objective and subjective nature of trust should also be considered. This can be referred to as hard and soft trust, a concept in digital trust that leverages verifiable security mechanisms and dynamic metrics that cater for the objective and dynamic aspects of trust. So hard trust can be enforced by computer security mechanisms like encryption and checksums. Hence, it is objective in nature because these security mechanisms give us the confidence that our data has not been altered or accessed by a malicious entity. While soft trust, on the other hand, is subjective in nature because it captures the dynamic nature of trust through the evaluation of users during their interactions over time using reputation systems or recommendation systems. And because trust in the markets is dynamic and context sensitive, a combination of hard trust mechanisms like blockchain with soft trust mechanisms like reputation systems would help ensure fairness and security in the market. With this in mind, we looked at blockchain technology as a hard trust mechanism. So blockchain technology is a decentralized and distributed ledger technology that records transactions redundantly and transparently in immutable ledgers, thus avoiding single points of failure. It leverages consensus algorithms to validate transactions, mitigating the possibility of collusion because all information has to be collectively validated by market participants. And the immutable and transparent ledgers of blockchain allow for clear accountability. And every transaction is timestamped and tied to participants' digital identities, making it impossible for any participants to deny their involvement in a transaction. And in an effort to add an extra layer of security and trust, we also considered zero trust architectures as another hard trust mechanism. So zero trust architectures follow the principle of never trust, always verify. And its property of continuous verification continuously validates the identities and permissions of devices or users regardless of their location. This then ensures that trust does not automatically extend to insiders or outsiders. And then through microsegmentation, zero trust architectures controls access based on specific contextual needs, which then also ensures that network zones align with the sensitivity of the resources in them. And then lastly, least privilege access can also be ensured by zero trust's adaptive policies that dynamically consider contextual factors such as location and time when giving users access to resources. Having discussed the hard trust mechanisms, we also considered reputation as a soft trust mechanism. And reputation is a measure of trust that is based on feedback from a community and the previous interactions of the participants in this community. This feedback is then aggregated to provide evaluation about participants in a way that is transparent, therefore helping participants make informed decisions about who is trustworthy enough to trade with. And for the peer-to-peer energy markets, a decentralized reputation system would be essential so that we can ensure the task of evaluation is distributed across the network. Reputation systems help foster trust and deter malicious behavior in the markets through price-related incentives, and they may be vulnerable to manipulation and collusion. As such, a lot of works in research look at using blockchain technology to ensure that reputation information can be made transparent and immutable, mitigating the possibility of collusion and manipulation. Having explored these trust mechanisms, we then looked at how they can be used to address the previously identified trust requirements in the peer-to-peer energy markets. As such, a short review was then conducted in the paper, following the guidelines, systematic literature reviews in software engineering. This review then investigated how the identified trust mechanisms can address the trust requirements in peer-to-peer applications and the extent to which they addressed them. And the inclusion criteria sourced studies that discussed the use of blockchain technology, zero trust architectures, and reputation systems to address decentralized trust and security. And studies were then excluded if they were not peer-reviewed and did not discuss enhancing trust or security in peer-to-peer environments. And then our search string was then refined to focus on specific technologies like blockchain, zero trust, or reputation, and how they were used in the decentralized peer-to-peer energy markets or IoT environments, ensuring relevance to the topic. Works in the peer-to-peer energy market paradigm were reviewed in this study, and they were evaluated, once again, based on the trust-enabling technology they leveraged in their work and the trust requirements that they addressed, also the extent to which they addressed them. And from the table, as we can see, a lot of works in this paradigm leveraged blockchain technology to address concerns related to security, transparency, consensus, and accountability. This can be attributed to the characteristics of blockchain that help ensure security and trust in decentralized environments. And this was then well covered in literature. While conversely, not a lot of works leveraged zero trust because there was limited research that focused on the integration of zero trust architectures and peer-to-peer energy markets. As such, we looked at how zero trust architectures were applied in IoT environments to address the trust requirements. And we looked at IoT environments as an alternative environment because we have IoT devices in the peer-to-peer energy markets. Additionally, further research is needed to address privacy, fairness, and reputation, which were not as well covered in the literature, focusing on decentralized peer-to-peer energy markets. From this analysis of literature, a few limitations and gaps were identified. And what stood out from the literature was that there was a limited focus in implementing zero trust architectures in peer-to-peer energy markets. This can be due to the technical limitations of IoT devices in the market and possibly the lack of empirical evidence of the benefits of this integration. However, this integration, especially along with blockchain, can ensure verifiable interactions and secure and transparent transactions. Additionally, reputation systems, although they were researched, they were rarely combined with zero trust architectures for decentralized peer-to-peer energy markets. And the combination of these technologies could yield a reputation system that enforces strict access rules in the market based on the behavior of the participants, thus ensuring that participants trade with other trustworthy participants and also further enhancing the security posture of these reputation systems. Thirdly, privacy concerns were not adequately addressed as well, despite the critical importance highlighted by laws like the POPIA Act that emphasize the need to safeguard private information in ICT systems. Without robust privacy measures, participants may be reluctant to share accurate data relating to their energy consumption and generation, which could undermine the efficiency of the market. This then also highlights another gap where zero trust approaches could provide fine-grained control over who gets to access specific data and also ensuring compliance with privacy regulations and market rules. And lastly, fairness in the peer-to-peer energy trading paradigm is mostly addressed by reputation systems and the presence of regulator actors in the markets, which kind of contradicts the decentralized architecture of these markets. And this concern is not necessarily addressed by blockchain, and by addressing fairness, a broader participation can be encouraged, thus ensuring that participants are not disadvantaged by biases, and blockchain can then contribute to this by automatically enforcing unbiased trading practices through smart contracts that are programmed with market rules and structures. These gaps highlight the need for continued exploration to fully realize the potential of peer-to-peer energy markets and ensuring that participants are actually comfortable with trading in this environment. The study investigated the trust requirements that were necessary for the success of decentralized peer-to-peer energy markets and how well these requirements were addressed using technologies like blockchain technology, zero trust architectures, and reputation systems. A short review was conducted to identify the gaps and limitations of current approaches, and it was found that literature does not adequately cover the integration of peer-to-peer energy markets and zero trust or zero trust architectures with reputation systems. Additionally, privacy and fairness were also not adequately addressed by blockchain technology in general. As part of our future research, we will be devising a trust-based reputation framework that addresses trust requirements using zero trust architectures and reputation systems to enhance trust in decentralized peer-to-peer energy markets. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the funders that helped make this research possible, and thank you very much for your attention. Okay.
Thank you so much. We will be taking questions.
Yes.
Anybody with some questions?
Right.
All right, so Ms. Lutlela, so you say you will now be considering the next step in terms of devising the framework
Yes.
based on these recommendations.
Yes, ma'am.
So this the initial research that you had found on which you will base that.
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
and the
exactly.
framework, will that involve, can you give us a little bit of background just briefly on that?
Okay, so considering this research, right, what I thought of, especially with the trust issues, right, I thought of this environment, Facebook Markets, where I tried to buy a laptop. And there, I was really reluctant to buy that laptop because I'm not sure of the quality. I'm not sure if the people will deliver the laptop, and it was just those trust requirements. And I thought to myself, if I knew that these people have some sort of a reputation, so I know for a fact that they've traded with other people and they actually fulfilled that trade or whatever, it would be easier to trust them. So seeing as the peer-to-peer energy markets are similar to that, I was then thinking that since they have the same problem, why not then consider a reputation system that can actually help people know that this is the person that I can trade with and this is the person that I can't trade with. So reputation systems on their own are actually like very prone to collusion and manipulation. So peer-to-peer energy markets will then, like, that reputation might not be trusted as well. So these markets are also blockchain-based. So I was considering the fact that I could also use blockchain for the reputation system as well. And then I also read about zero trust architectures, which then continuously verify what I could say then trust scores, right? So they evaluate users or devices and they verify whether they can access resources or not. So I thought that we could actually use the same framework that Zero Trust is based on, along with the reputation system, to ensure that only trustworthy participants are trading in the market. So then you don't have an instance where a person is doubting whether they should trade with another person or not, because then Zero Trust can ensure that only trustworthy participants actually get to trade. And the reputation system as well will then be secure because the evaluations will be immutable in the blockchain and transparent for everyone to see.
Oh, that's great. Thank you for your contribution today. We
you very
certainly
much.
value your presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
All right, everybody. This then